The Thanksgiving holiday is almost upon us. And while I look forward to celebrating the holiday, I think it's interesting that we only have one single day a year out of 365 that we dedicate to being thankful each year. The truth is that it can be hard for people to be thankful, to feel gratitude, and actually, we can blame this on our evolution. In order for our ancestors to survive, it was essential to notice and avoid potential threats. Think proverbial saber-toothed tigers, for example. So instead of focusing on the enjoyable aspects of their surroundings, they had to focus on the dangers. This thing that helped them survive the wild is called negativity bias. In addition, humans adapt very quickly to both the good and even the bad things in our lives, starting to take them for granted, and we return to homeostasis so that, evolutionarily, we are ready for the next threat. So gratitude doesn't come naturally for many of us. It's something we have to practice, something we have to actively work at, like building a muscle. Dr. Thomas Gilovich of Cornell University is a leading expert on gratitude. He found that even highly successful people can feel resentful of others who have more money, more power, more status than they do. Or, on the other hand, they may feel a sense of privilege from their lofty perches. If someone is feeling either of these things, they're not feeling grateful, nor are they feeling happy. So using this lens, it's interesting to look back at the two cultures who are represented in the American Thanksgiving story, one of the founding myths of our country. These two cultures couldn't have been more different in this regard. For the Calvinist pilgrims, a day of Thanksgiving would be a day of prayer and fasting, certainly not a time of lighthearted happiness. The native people, however, had a different perspective. For them, gratitude was a way of life. This is illustrated by the fact that they gave thanks and celebrated many times throughout the year, holding feasts as various crops were harvested. And yet, Thanksgiving, which has been portrayed as a day where the pilgrims and the Wampanoag people sat down together as equals for a celebratory dinner, has become a day of mourning for Native people, one that commemorates the genocide that took place throughout North America. In the year 1970, the people of Plymouth, Massachusetts, planned a big celebration to mark the 350th year anniversary of the Pilgrims arriving. They asked a native speaker from the Wampanoag people, Wamsuta is his native name, Frank James is his English name, to deliver a few remarks. However, they wanted to read his speech in advance. When Wamsuta showed it to them, they decided it wasn't exactly what they had in mind and asked him instead to read words written by a public relations person. Mr. James refused. Here are a few excerpts from the speech Wamsuta Frank James did give that day, September 10th, 1970. The excerpt he spoke was not part of the celebration, but took place on a hill overlooking the town of Plymouth. He said in part, "Although time has drained our culture and our language is almost extinct, we, the Wampanoag, still walk the land of Massachusetts. We may be fragmented, we may be confused. Many years have passed since we have been a people together. Yet our spirit refuses to die. We stand tall and proud. You, the white man, are celebrating an anniversary, the beginning of a new life for the Pilgrims. Now, 350 years later, is a beginning of a new determination for the original American, the American Indian. We now have 350 years of experience living amongst the white man. We can now think as a white man thinks. We can now compete with him for top jobs. We are being heard. We are now being listened to. So I urge us to combat the erasure of Native Americans this Thanksgiving by telling the true story and listening to Native voices like Wamsuta Frank James. Over time, his brave act of resistance grew into an annual protest against the myth of Thanksgiving, and it has since spread across the country. You know, giving thanks can be complicated. I'm sure that in their own austere way, the Calvinists, the Pilgrims, were thankful for this new beginning they achieved by traveling to this continent, and yet they felt sense of gratitude against a backdrop of whole communities of Native people being decimated by disease the colonists brought with them. Those Pilgrims were giving thanks, even though at the same time, many natives were being stolen from their land and sold as slaves back in Europe. So while gratitude was a way of life for many Native people, it's hard to imagine those natives giving thanks for any of that. Yes, giving thanks can be complicated. Brother David Steindl-Rast is a Benedictine monk who has a whole program that he's developed called Grateful Living. He tells us that we don't have to be grateful for everything that has happened to us. Far from it. For example, I was on vacation in Boston this past summer with my husband Rob's family. His son's partner is confined to a wheelchair after a car accident. And when we visited Harvard Square, my stepson was furious that all the sidewalks were cobblestones, bouncing his partner around on every rotation of the wheels. She was in constant pain as we tried to navigate this historic city. So there may be things in your life that are not going to be cured by gratitude. And those things will likely continue to frustrate and perhaps even anger you. But I hope and pray that that isn't the whole story. I hope that if you're having major challenges, that you seek support from a strong network of friends, like this church community, or a professional, and find some coping strategies that bring joy back into your life. Here's what meditation teacher and author Sharon Salzberg says about that. Being grateful doesn't mean I have to keep a gratitude jar or a gratitude list that counts my blessings. It just means I can reset my thoughts, just like in meditation, and choose instead to gently settle my attention on something positive. We don't erase the pain, it's still there, but we can broaden our perspective by opening up to our pain and also opening to things other than suffering that we feel. She says this kind of opening can bring us exquisite joy that can ascend into possibility from a place of acceptance and gratitude. Educator Parker Palmer tells the story of, as he describes her, his bright, kind, and adventuresome 6-year-old granddaughter who wrote this in response to a Thanksgiving school assignment. "I'm thankful for many things," she wrote. "First of all, I'm thankful for the world, because without it, we would be floating in outer space. Second of all, I'm thankful for Mom and Dad and sister, because they help me. Last of all, I'm grateful for nature, because if we didn't have nature, it wouldn't be pretty. I'm thankful for all of these things." On Thanksgiving Day that year, with 3 generations of Palmer's family at the table, they read her words aloud as their Thanksgiving blessing. The only way to keep the gift alive is to pass it along. We've been given so many, many things, so many gifts. A paraphrasing of the Hebrew scripture Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verses 10 through 12, from the Hebrew scriptures goes like this: "We build on foundations we did not lay. We warm ourselves by fires we did not light. We sit in the shade of trees we did not plant. We drink from wells we did not dig. We profit from persons we did not know." These are only a few examples of the bounty, the bountiful inheritance that we all share. How shall we respond as inheritors of these gifts except with gratitude? Do you know what science says about the benefits of gratitude? For starters, experiencing gratitude actually lowers stress and helps you sleep better. Also, many people who have a regular gratitude practice see a marked improvement in their mental health. Plus, it's also good for our physical health. Who knew? Because grateful people typically increase their physical activity. And thanks to Dr. Gilovich and others who study gratitude, we know some simple ways everyone can use the idea of gratitude to improve their lives and their relationships. Things like saying thank you to people close to us. It helps us feel better, and it also boosts their spirits. It helps us take a wider, more expansive view of life, rather than focusing solely on our own. Brother David Steindl-Rast has a little formula for us. He says it's as easy as something that we learned as young children when our caregivers taught us how to cross the road. He calls it stop, look, go. And he explains his practice this way. The first is to stop and pause long enough to notice the world around you. The second is to look for opportunities to find gratitude. And the third, go take advantage of it. Grateful living is based on having trust and taking advantage of all the opportunities to live a joyful life. You haven't thought of all the things you take for granted, he says. Breathing, walking, simply being alive, having eyes to see, having friends, having something to eat. If you take these for granted, they do nothing. However, anything that we do mindfully can give us joy. Many religions advocate for gratitude as a spiritual practice. You might be surprised to learn that one prominent UU minister thinks that gratitude should be at the center of our Unitarian Universalist theology. Reverend Galen Goodrich, the senior minister at All Souls UU in New York City, points out that while we go about our lives thinking of ourselves as isolated individuals, nothing could be further from the truth. The fact is that we are utterly dependent upon relationships, everything, from the connections between the smallest atomic particle to the vastness of the universe. Gundrich says our salvation comes through feeling gratitude for all of those relationships. That when such a realization penetrates our minds, it not only evokes a feeling of awe, it produces a sense of gratitude for our very existence. In Gungrich's view, religion has two distinct but related aspects: that sense of awe, and then followed by a sense of obligation. The feeling of awe emerges, he says, from our experiences of grandeur, of life, and the mystery of the divine. This feeling becomes religious when a sense of obligation lays claim to us, and we feel a duty to the larger life that we share. I believe, he adds, that gratitude is the appropriate religious response to the nature of this universe. That's a pretty bold assertion for a leader in such an eclectic faith tradition. So with that in mind, let's spend a brief moment and consider the nature of the universe. The author Bill Bryson describes living beings as the relationship that exists between various protons, neutrons, and electrons that come together to form us. The thing he points out, those subatomic entities are themselves not alive. He says that if you or I were picked apart by tiny little tweezers, we would produce a mound of fine atomic dust, none of which had ever been alive, but all of which had at once been you. Yet somehow, for the period of your existence, those particles will answer to a single overarching impulse to keep you, you. I don't know about you, but to me, that's a pretty awesome idea. It might indeed produce a sense of gratitude and amazement that we are here at all. Since science says that nurturing feelings of gratitude lead to better health, why not develop that muscle? There's no wrong way to do it. There's journaling or taking a moment before your meals to express thanks for the earth, for the plants and animals that gave their lives for your food, and to the farmers and field workers and all the way up the chain to your plate. Or writing a note to someone who has touched your life. It all gives us a new outlook on life and expands our minds and heals our hearts. This seems like a simple example, but I'll share it with you. I'm super grateful for the meditation teachers that post their free videos on YouTube. And I think about ways to support them and give something back. I see this as a spiritual act, an ethical act. And so gratitude can lead to an act of generosity. In fact, I believe that what flows from gratitude is generosity. And through that generosity, we nurture and grow gratitude well beyond our individual lives and enhance the common good. So for what shall we give thanks? Reverend Laura Horton Ludwig answers with a poem. The wheel of the year has turned again. Once more this Thanksgiving season has arrived. How shall we sing our song of gratitude now? For what shall we give thanks? For this moment, for friends near and far, for our breath, for love, for courage and clarity, for strength, for delight and laughter and beauty, for the tables around which we gather, for the food we enjoy with friends. seasoned with love and memory, for the sun and moon and stars in the sky, for the trees who have seen so much and still stand proud, stretching themselves to the sky, for the bright voices of children, for the wisdom of elders, for actions that bless the world, for hard work that makes a difference, for music and art and celebration, for generosity and compassion, for endurance, for joy, for hope. For all these things we give our thanks. So may it be.